I'd like to welcome everybody to the City Council of the City of Escalon meeting. This is the regular meeting of September 16th, 2019. Would you please join me in this salute to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Merkin?
Here.
Councilmember Crumick?
Here.
Councilmember Legero?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Alves?
Here.
And Mayor Swift.
Here. And looks like starting out tonight, we have a couple of presentations. And there's, the first presentation is going to be a very special one for somebody who's given an awful lot of time and service to the city of Escalon and has helped make this a better place. Officer Armendariz, you, yeah. I'll meet you up at the podium, please, if you wouldn't mind. I see you pointing the other direction.
I was giving him a bad time.
Let me read this for you. A certificate of recognition from the City of Escalon. The City of Escalon wishes to thank David Armendariz on his 17 and a half years of service to the City of Escalon as a police officer and the decision to continue serving the community by remaining with the police department in reserve capacity. With over 27 years of law enforcement experience, your willingness to serve this community has not gone unnoticed. The city truly values the loyalty and dedication you have given to the community with your time and commitment, all of which has made Escalon a better place to live and to work. And on behalf of the City Council, I congratulate you on retirement and thank you so much for giving me. I'm going to turn it over to the chief for the roast.
There we go.
Well, that roast will
I do it.
actually take place on Saturday the 21st. We are having a celebration of David's service and a retirement party for him on that date. I know some of you have RSVP'd already, and we look forward to having you all there. Some comments that I'll make here, I'll probably be repeating myself on Saturday as well, is Dave started in law enforcement in Stanislaus County as a sheriff's reserve deputy in 1992. From there, he went to Chula Vista for a short time, then Modesto PD, Newman PD, until he finally found what I'd say his home here in Escalon in March of 2002. His last official work day is today, the 16th.
Wow.
Which I could order him actually to be here.
And I showed up on time.
He was here. And then as of tomorrow, he changed his status from full-time to reserve. We already have plans to use him. As I said, he's had probably over 27 years of law enforcement. During his time here, he spent time in the agency as a field training officer, continues to fill that role unofficially for our reserve personnel who ride with him at times and trains. He's responsible for maintaining some of our equipment that we use, the breathalyzer machine, and ensuring that any of our new personnel that have to be trained on that, he sets up the training for them. Those are just a couple of the minor things that Dave done, but appreciate his years of service. We could count on him being here and working and taking care of business. And I'll be looking forward to seeing many of you on Saturday night when we get to truly roast him. Anything you'd like to add, Dave?
Thanks for that little scare there. But to begin with, I want to thank the city, and especially Walt Merkin. Councilman Merkin was the one that gave me the opportunity when I first came up here. A person that you guys put in her, some guy named Gus Flores told me to come up here. I'm not sure where he's at. Anyways, he told me it's a good place to work. We both went to the academy together. And also there was an officer named Chris Green too, to kind of encourage me to come up here. I went to our academy. I think he's over in Monterey Bay now, working in some agency over there. Lucky him. Anyways, but Mr. Merkin gave me a chance. At the first time, I had two interviews. On the first time, I said I was looking into Stan County probation, which I did a little bit over there. Wasn't mentioned, but I did juvenile probation, juvenile hall, and I worked with adult probation, and I just got tired of pushing paper, answering phone calls and stuff like that. So I gave Gus a call, and I go, you think Walt would give me another shot? Come out and ride again, we'll see. And I was, I enjoyed the opportunity to come out again, and he goes, you know what, David, I'll give you a shot. So he gave me the shot, and I told him, you know what, I've been there, done that. I'm not one of those gonna come here for 2 or 3 years and say, bye, thank you. I'm gonna be one of those, like, I'm gonna dedicate my, been there, done that already, so. And he understood that, he gave me the opportunity, he believed in that, and I gave him the same opportunity back, and here I am. And I'm still not done, because I'm on reserve now. You haven't got rid of me now, but like I said, I don't want to say too much, because Saturday night's gonna be more of a history of my more background, which the Chief kind of covered. But I do have highlights and short lights here working for this department for a city that everybody waved at me when I was riding out. And I never had that, even Modesto, Chula Vista, Stan County, maybe Houston when I worked a little bit over that's patrolling for the county sheriff's office. But this city here really is a family here. You don't really get to enjoy that, especially when stuff comes up with my immediate family. I talked to my chief and I got some time off, and other opportunities too with former Chief Dunford. He gave me some time. I was going through a bad time in my life, and he kind of stood with me and gave me another opportunity too. And you don't get that at other departments. That's why I really cherish this area here, and that's why I stayed here, and that's why I continue to stay here and drive all the way from Turlock. People say, why don't you move to Escalon? I like the journey in Turlock, Don't get me wrong, if I could afford to live out here, I probably could, but I like to enjoy my away time when I get away. I love you guys, but on my days off, I kind of want to, I don't want to see Gus on my days off or, whoever. But yeah, that's one thing that's so unique about this town, and that's why I stayed here, is because you guys took me in as under the wing when I didn't have any gray hair and I was still learning the job, and because I was encouraged by people in Modesto to go back to Modesto once I was here about 3 or 4 times, and I kind of knew how to do the job. And I go, no, thanks, but no thanks. I just love the community here. There's a lot of good people that live here, a lot of people that work with me, and that's why I'm still here now. Thanks, and I hope to see you guys Saturday, and you'll hear more about this on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And don't forget, you're as much of a part of the community as all of us, and we're all family here, so glad to see that you'll still be around. Our next presentation is going to be on the progress on the McHenry Avenue Bridge project.
And here tonight is Alex Chetney, sorry, with San Joaquin County.
Yes. So good evening, City Council members. Thank you for allowing me to make this presentation this evening. My name is Alex Chetley, Interim Deputy Director of Engineering for the San Joaquin County Department of Public Works. With me is Mr. Miguel Aguirre, Resident Engineer in the Construction Engineering Division. I'm here to talk to you about the McHenry Avenue Corridor Improvement Project, which is a project you may well be aware of here in Escalon. Construction began in 2017, and for those who are unfamiliar, I'll provide a brief background. So there's 3 main aspects of this very important project that I want to focus on: what the project is, and where we are at with construction, and finally what to expect as the project concludes. So I know as well as you how vital this corridor is to our counties and cities. I've owned homes in both northern Stanislaus County and the city of Modesto. I've driven over the Stanislaus River Bridge many times, like millions of others, since it was first constructed in 1959. In fact, the model of the first house I bought in Modesto was called the McHenry. So I also know very well how critical the bridge is when traffic incidents occur on Highway 99, and how vital it is for commuters and for the movement of agricultural goods. This is a significant project. It's a very important bridge. And it's been said that a bridge has no allegiance to either side, and they're a monument to progress. So for me, the pride in seeing it completed is both professional and personal. I admire the engineering and construction innovation, and at the same time, I know how much it benefits both residents and travelers. So collaborating with friends in Stanislaus County, Department of Public Works, SSJID, 6 utility companies, Caltrans, and others, our department, Public Works of San Joaquin County, will be completing this $32 million project. Project included federal, state, and local funds, including contributions from Stanislaus County. The design was completed by AECom, construction by Myers and Sons, with construction management by M&S Engineers. Our outreach consultant is AIM Consulting. So what the project is. So as I go through this presentation tonight, I've been playing some visualizations and video we took with our very own drone fleet. So the project can be thought of in terms of three main components: the actual Stanislaus River Bridge, the SSJ-ID Canal Bridge at Myers Avenue, and the intersection of River Road and McHenry Avenue. With this project, the bridge was widened from 2 to 5 lanes, including turn lanes and bike lanes with pedestrian facilities. The existing 4-way stop intersection is being converted into a signalized intersection with safety lighting. There's also improvements to River Road both east and west of the intersection. And I'm going to speak more on that critical component in a few minutes. In fact, the remaining work at that location there at the intersection and its impacts are the main reason I wanted to speak to you this evening. Lastly, the bridge over the SSJ-ID Canal was replaced and the road was widened as well at that location. So it goes without saying that with replacement of the bridge structures, the project addressed all structural deficiencies and ensures compliance with current seismic requirements. So where are we? I'd like to talk about the progress of construction and some of the hurdles we overcame during the past couple of years. As I said, construction began in 2017. Before construction began, we anticipated significant traffic issues at the 4-way stop during construction. The intersection was always planned to be signalized from the get-go, but that comes at the end of the project. One of our team's many innovations on this project was to convert the existing 4-way stop to a temporary roundabout, actually a beanabout, as it resembled the shape of a kidney bean. This facilitated much better flow for the nearly 13,000 vehicles per day that use this corridor. At first, there were some skeptics, but when they saw how much more quickly they could get through the intersection, they became converts. And perhaps the greatest aspect of this temporary beanabout was its flexibility. You'll notice in the videos that it changes shape as necessitated by construction. We were able to transform it from a bean into a small or medium shape, circular shape as the project progressed. Demolition of the bridge was made possible by constructing a pile-supported shield directly under the bridge. This allowed demolition to proceed without endangering fish or blocking river traffic. So high river flows resulting from unusually large rainfall and snowpacks in 2017 and 2019 were also a challenge and caused some delays. So while debris flows were a constant concern down below, up above, the crews were busy pouring large concrete bridge decks. The SSJ-ID bridge replacement was scheduled to take place over 2 seasons, and our team worked closely with SSJ-ID to get it done in 1 season. And that effectively moved up the completion of the project, which was originally scheduled to be done in 2020. It's going to be done this year. Another noteworthy aspect of this project was outreach. We knew from the beginning that there would be impacts to many people. And the county took a proactive approach through community meetings and early notifications to over 3,000 property owners. We created a project website which contained photos and videos of the construction, up-to-date traffic information, as well as some fun informational videos. The website improvemchenry.com provides email updates, a text message service for traffic updates, and a project hotline. And as you can imagine, social media is now a common tool for getting the word out. And so our team created and frequently updated both Facebook and Instagram project websites. So lastly, project conclusion. So we're here about roughly a month from completion of the project. And the one remaining construction effort is to replace our beanabout and convert it into a fully signalized intersection. And this is where we could use your help. While we've made every effort to minimize the duration of this conversion, the fact remains that drivers will experience significant delays while the signal is being installed. Maybe as much as 30 minutes to clear through the whole corridor. We estimate that this will take between 2 and 3 weeks beginning in the first week of October. And during that time, the road will remain open. However, we're unable to go directly from a temporary roundabout directly to a signalized intersection. So it's got to revert to a 4-way stop for this brief conversion. Through our outreach consultant, AIM Consulting, we're doing a media blast to warn drivers to try to stay out of the area for a couple of weeks. We're considering it our own valley version of Carmageddon. I think I can hear it now that people are going to scream, "Bring back the roundabout," that they hated so much at the beginning. And as a civil engineer, that's music to my ears. I love that. I'd love to hear that. The intersection was always designed to be signalized and accommodate both current traffic and future projected traffic. A permanent roundabout at that intersection would have been very challenging to fit in the area confined by the bridge on the south side and the SSJID canal there on the northwest. So if I can leave you with any parting thoughts, it's to pass the word to your constituents to try to take an alternate route for a few weeks, but come back and see what your tax dollars can do, see what your public works departments can deliver for you. I'd also like to mention that we've made or are making similar presentations to the city councils of Modesto, Ripon, Riverbank, as well as both Stanislaus County and San Joaquin, our own board of supervisors. With the minimal work remaining after October, there might be a little bit of cleanup work, but it'll effectively be done. There'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate the successful completion of the project, and you all will be invited. You will get invitations, and they'll be coordinated through our outreach consultant. And that concludes my presentation.
Mr. Chutney, quick question. San Joaquin County might be a victim of its own success in this issue, because you're correct. Originally, the bean about, there was a lot of apprehension about that. Then people began to love it. Then when you tell them that, or when they would be told that ultimately, no, it's going to be signalized, the consensus was, oh. And so my question is this. I understand this is built very similarly to the intersection around Al's Furniture down there, okay? How do you think flows are going to go after the beanabout's gone? What do you think is going to be a comparison with the flows? And I'm really thinking not only of the north-south, but also the eastbound coming in from Ripon, because the amount of traffic there has increased exponentially.
Well, they'll both be improved compared to what it was before the project began. Definitely will be improved and much more safe. We actually thought about, could a roundabout work at that intersection? And considering the future traffic, it probably would have to be a double lane roundabout, and we've done one of those in the county with moderate success.
Oh, in Tracy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, with roundabouts, typically you want, if you're going to introduce a roundabout to a community that previously is unfamiliar with them, you definitely want to start with singles for a while until people get used to driving them. You know, going and inserting a large double lane roundabout is difficult to sell. It's challenging to get that accepted by a traveling public. Even though they can get through the intersection quickly at times, navigating two lanes and crossing over the weave is an issue.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And originally there was going to be a bike lane on the bridge as part of the plan, but I don't think that's part of the result. Why was that idea scrapped?
No, I think there is a bike lane on the
There's a
west
bike lane?
side. Is that right,
It's on
Miguel?
one side only. Yeah.
It's on one side. It's on the west side of the bridge. There'll
Okay,
be
so that's still, yet to be striped and,
Right, that's
Okay,
right.
okay,
Effectively,
right.
the bridge deck, the bridge area is
Right.
done.
Mhm.
And now we're just waiting to convert that intersection before
It'll be
we can open it up for all, do all the striping.
Sure,
That's when
sure.
I said there's a few items remaining that'll be striping so that we can open it up for good.
okay, very good.
And we'll have the ribbon cutting right near the site. We're trying to find a good spot for the number of people that'll attend.
Right, okay, very good. Are
And
there any other-
I have a quick question. The delays are you anticipating, is it more during the day when construction is going to be happening, or do we think delays will be?
I think you'll experience the delays will be the most intense during the peaks of traffic, which is, there's a peak in the morning, obviously, and then a peak in the afternoon. We're trying to use scare tactics. I'm going to be perfectly blunt to try and keep people away from that. I realize that the only alternatives are Santa Fe and 99, and 99 in the afternoon right now is pretty rough. So we're trying to see what we can do to work with John, with Escalon, the transit coordinator, to see if we can provide additional transit during that 2 weeks. Been working with him, and so we're working on maybe a letter of understanding and trying to maybe subsidize some additional buses for, to address because Escalon and Modesto are our main concerns. We're concerned about Ripon and the traveling public at large, But Escalon and Modesto, because of the proximity, I imagine you have a number of commuters going both ways. So it's something that we want to try and hit straight on or head on, maybe to help.
Sure. And Tammy, is this on via social media as well, or what's the social media aspect of getting the word out about this?
So we do have a website, and we have a project website, and we have Instagram and Facebook pages for the project. You can sign up to get updates. You can also, it's not social media, but you can enter in your phone number and get text updates on the traffic. I get those, I see them when they come through. It's like you just sign up and you can tell it to stop when you've had enough.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from our perspective.
From the city's
We
perspective.
Escalon residents, Facebook pages like that.
I mean, for us, the city can share when they make updates on their
Okay.
Facebook page, we can share that,
Okay.
and then hope that, others
Sure.
typically will grasp onto
Start
those
getting
too.
that, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we could offer alternative routes on the webpage so that people know how to get around it.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we don't have much options, but yeah, Santa Fe, I think that's what they, the most recent delays with the paving,
Right.
recommended Santa Fe, so.
Yeah.
Comments?
Correct.
I had a
Council members?
question. So what do the studies show as far as engineering is a roundabout versus a traffic light? Which gets all the traffic through faster? And if it is a roundabout, which it sounds like it is, why are we not doing a roundabout?
So
Just because it's hard for people to figure it out?
No, that's not it. A roundabout, for a certain amount of traffic, will get people through an intersection more quickly. There's ancillary benefits to a roundabout, basically less collisions of a severe nature in a roundabout.
So
you
they're
may have-
safer?
I think so, yeah. Some people are a little hesitant about accepting roundabouts. It's unusual, although I lived in Modesto, and Modesto's got a lot of roundabouts. It's unique that way. Not every community has a lot of roundabouts, so some people are a little just reluctant to accept them. So, but like I said, for a certain amount of traffic, roundabouts are better. But when you get to certain thresholds, multi-lane signalized intersections can move traffic through better. They operate better, because then you're getting into double lane roundabouts, and you don't see a lot of those. Those are, when they're operating at high efficiency, they're great. The problem is they don't always operate it's tough to get that high efficiency throughput on the
So the
intersection.
traffic that we've got going through is too great for that?
It is, yeah. And so to answer your second part of your question, why not a roundabout permanently there? We don't have enough space to put in a big
the
enough
canal-
roundabout. Frankly, I'd love to, but I wish I wasn't a part of the original design. We'd love to. I think they did look at it,
Yeah.
but there's only so much space there to work with because of the river and the canal, particularly that canal. I mean, on the northeast side, you have orchards there, and you can buy right away. I mean, we had to do it for this project, but you can't. It gets very expensive to start fussing with the canals.
Okay.
Yeah. And you,
Typical wait at a light. What's the wait at a light? What are your time intervals?
It's going to depend on the amount of traffic. I can't give you a straight answer
Does it
on that.
vary, or is it
It
constant?
varies, right? It
It
does.
varies based on the amount of
Based
traffic?
on the amount of traffic moving through at a particular time.
So is there a sensor that senses the amount of traffic, which determines the amount of time?
So signal design may include sensors. Typically, they do. You may find rural signalized intersections that don't have sensors, that are on timers. There's really a lot of combinations, but typically, you'll have the sensors that will be, and the signal will be programmed to handle. Usually, you have one of the directions will be the major mode of traffic, and the other will be side. That intersection gets a lot of traffic both ways, like your city manager mentioned. So I'm not familiar with how they're programming it, but I can't tell you what the delay will be moving through there. I mean, there'll be a delay, sure, at peak times. It'll be much better than it was pre-project, and I think people will be happy with the result.
what are you projecting I understand what you're saying in terms of the traffic threshold. Right now, it would look like it would be in fact be appropriate for the roundabout. But you're looking at how many years in the future are you looking at where basically that threshold that would be efficient for a roundabout would not be efficient anymore? How many years in the future are you looking at?
Typically, so when they do design of these, they use a model, a countywide model for traffic that's based on a number of inputs. Usually it's a 20-year horizon.
Okay. And the bridge lifespan, what are you looking at maybe? Assuming nothing crazy.
Many decades.
Okay.
How many decades? I'm not sure. I want to say 75 years,
So what would happen
but
if
don't
we?
quote me on that.
Okay, no problem. So what happens if we, 20-year, time span for the signalized lights, once traffic exceeds that, then what typically is done?
Well, you could look at adding more lanes. It's gonna be expensive to do so because of the canal there, but
Right.
that's what you would look at, is adding more lanes to, you've already got the bridge portion, so the bridge leg, you got 4 legs, the south leg on the bridge, that's set up to have multiple lanes. That should be set up for a long time to work really well. It's the River Road, legs that are challenging, because those are gonna have less lanes
Yep.
through. McHenry from your town, from Escalon coming through, you've got a pretty good sized area to work with there. So I think there's expansion on the north leg is more easily attainable than expansion on the east and west legs.
Okay.
Is the other small bridge going to be done by Stanislaus? There's that,
So south of the project?
Yeah.
Okay, so does everybody know what she's referring to? So that's a good question. Stanislaus County has got plans to widen basically from where our project ends on the south side down to Ladd Road to match the 5 lanes. And that is scheduled to begin construction next year.
oh, okay, great, thank you.
So they're dovetailing, if everything goes well, no unforeseen hiccups on environmental or what have you, they'll be dovetailing right on the end of this project's completion.
So enjoy this project for a few months.
That one, that one won't be as disruptive. It's not my project, but just, you don't have the intersection issues to deal with as much. It's just widening so they can build one side and move the traffic over one side and then switch and go back to the other side.
Any further comments, questions?
We are gonna have a bottleneck, right? At Jones Road, that's where it tapers down,
It's before that, actually.
or Jones Road?
Yeah. So when they come off of River, if they're headed north, then it feeds into a single lane and goes down to the 3 lanes with the turn lane, right? Is that correct?
Let's see
If I
here.
recall
I'm gonna read their project description. They're gonna widen the existing 2-lane McHenry Avenue to a total of 5 lanes, 2 northbound, 2 southbound, and a continuous center left turn lane from Ladd, the intersection of Ladd and Patterson Road, basically up to our project.
Yeah, I was
That's about 2 miles.
I was referring to our side of the bridge.
Yeah, so,
Oh, on the north side?
North of River Road, how, far does it go 5 lanes?
At the exit of the intersection, do you know, Miguel, how many lanes?
Right at the intersection, because the rest of the, most, I think it's a quarter mile,
Mhm.
half mile,
Yeah.
Henry Road, that turns into 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, on the north side, it tapers down to back to 3 lanes.
3, then 2.
The center left turn lane goes away, right?
3 is, yeah, there's 1 north, 1 south, and then there's the center.
So there's 2 lanes, yeah.
Two
Two
But
through
there's no
lanes.
turning lane after Jones Road,
No, because that's our project,
right,
yeah.
okay.
And are we planning on anything?
Jones
Yeah.
goes to
Yes.
bottlenecks.
We do have a plan.
Yes.
We don't have the plans, but we have some funding that's allocated to get that, done, yes.
From Jones
Okay,
into.
because I've already made that known to San Joaquin County COG.
And COG has, helped me with some of this funding. And some of it is federal funding, so, I need to hire, some assistance on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Mr. Chetney, I appreciate it very much. On behalf of the council, thank you for coming down tonight and letting us know where we're coming from.
Okay, it's my pleasure, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Do you need this back?
Oh, yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Next item is consent calendar. These items are considered routine in nature or acted.
Wait a minute, can I ask him one quick?
Yes, what was that, Dave?
Can I ask him one quick question?
Quickie.
Yeah, you said pretty soon to stay away from there because it's gonna be all heck going on down there. Will it be passable for emergency vehicles?
Yes, emergency vehicles, definitely get priority. Emergency and first responders get priority through there. The road will remain open,
Okay,
definitely.
Okay, Dave?
thank you.
Okay.
Well, we want to try and keep the traveling public away, but first responders definitely will get through
It'll
there.
help the fewer cars that are down there
True.
for a first responder to get through there.
And we have made a lot of effort to try and minimize that disruption, and we're continuing to work
Sure.
with our contractors to do
Okay.
that, so.
All right, thank you very much. On to the consent calendar, these items are going to be acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or members of the public for special consideration. For example, on item number 2, I will be abstaining from voting on check number 9663. And is there anything else?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion has been moved and approved to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Consent calendar passes 5-0. On to staff communications. Tammy.
Mayor and council, before you tonight is the treasurer's report for August, the police department's report, animal control activity report, water department for July and August. July is updated. Development services, building report, public works, wastewater treatment plant, and the recreation department. All of those are for August. Recreation also has their July in there too. And staff is available to answer any of those questions, or if council has any.
Any questions?
When is Andy with Pace coming back?
He's supposed to be getting us a draft report. We met with him a week ago.
Thursday.
Yeah, out at the plant. So he hasn't got us our draft report yet, but probably within the next 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
And question to Justin, the pod seepage issue, how's that going?
We're still status quo where we're holding with no leakage. We still have a little bit of water in pond 4 just because we can't get it to all go to the backyard and the states allow us to keep it there. Right now, where we're at is we're waiting for the geotech to get there, which he's ready to go. The county's kind of holding us up on approving the permit. So just waiting on the permit through the county and then we'll go.
Fantastic.
I have another question, sorry. So it seems like every summer there's a really bad smell, right, in the Marval Center. Is that from the plant, and is that the overload of the sewer system or the waste? What is that? Because every summer you walk out, you get hit in the face with this stuff. My kids are like, it stinks out here, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's exactly.
what is that?
What it is so the tomato trucks come in and they're on trailers. When they come inside the plant.
I think he's talking about,
I'm gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna
okay.
go with both.
All
I
right.
don't want to throw everybody in the bus here. But when they come in, all the juices leak onto the asphalt. And a lot of times when it's really nice.
On McHenry?
No, in their actual facilities.
Oh, in the, okay.
But with the way the facilities are, you guys are just adjacent to the east of it.
Right.
So with a great wind, they come through there. But that being said, what I think the smell that you're smelling is at least 4 times a year, that facility has a pretty good sewer issue that needs cleaned out, that we actually have to contact the property owner to do so. So as soon as you smell that, A1, let me know right away, make a phone call, and they will get somebody out there. Or you
I smell it every day, so I don't know.
Smell it every day? Well,
Oh, yeah.
why do you make phone calls?
Yeah. So you're saying, let me just get this right. So Heinz, Packers, whatever, 4 times a year they have a significant sewer issue.
No, that's your facility, the Marval Shopping Center.
Oh, this is not the plant.
No, the plant is every day during production, is the tomatoes that would be on the
So
asphalt.
that smell is from the Marval Center, that whole parking lot.
I really don't know what the smell you're smelling, but you're going to get both of those smells at times. You're
I don't know
gonna
what
get-
smell it is either, man. So, it just seems to happen every summer, so, but then it goes away when it starts raining, so maybe
Yeah.
that's, I don't know.
But it is, when it's really hot, that's where you're gonna get the premier brands, but even in the wintertime or when it's raining, we will get over at the Marval Shopping
All
Center.
right, yeah. I won't ask every year. I understand now.
But I'll make a phone call tomorrow, we'll make sure to get that line cleaned out.
We have a new owner that may not be aware either, so,
I could tell them to.
yeah.
Any further questions on the reports from the staff? Seeing none, Tammy, are there other issues?
Yeah, I did have a question for the council. In preparing for last meeting regarding the Parks and Recreation Fund, in doing a history of the Parks Foundation, in 2015, we were going to do a memorandum of understanding with them regarding the designation of where the skate park was to go. And we held off at that time because we were doing the master plan and we never followed through with it. So really, I wanted to know if we wanted to go back and do the formal documentation where we memorialize where that designation of the skate park is in an agreement and what is expected on both sides.
In other words, get it all in writing so that
Yeah,
future
we had
council-
started it, we already have a draft agreement, but again, we held off and then, you know, staff neglected to bring it back to the council once that master plan was approved.
I think it's a wise idea. What do you guys think?
Well, you gotta finish
So you
the
got it,
project.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I have, I don't know if, no.
Okay, so, you have item number 4.
So item number 4 is the discussion of potentially a local revenue measure, and potentially for our March ballot, and I'll let you do some input on that, Mayor.
Yeah, I just, I'd like to get some input on this and see if, see if this makes any sense or not. What's happened, we, back in June, the 2019-2020 budget, we voted in to add 2 more officers. And the reason we voted in to add 2 more officers within that budget is because we needed 2 more officers in this town. I think we used to have, 8 or 9?
We had 9.
Okay. And, for years, that worked okay, and it's not like maybe it worked well 10, 15 years ago, but nowadays, it seems like we need those 2 more officers. Now, one of the hallmarks for this town, okay, we're not the biggest town, we're not the fanciest town. What I hear, part of the reason people love this town, because it's a safe town. Your kids can go walk to school, they can walk to the playground. Your seniors aren't afraid of getting mugged and robbed every other minute. You're not stepping over homeless people. It's a safe place. And so I think that what we need to do is be thinking long-term into everything, what does it take to keep this town a safe place? And what I mean by a safe place, regardless of the economic situation. Now, typically, we're in good times right now economically. Eventually, the next recession will hit. It's just a normal part of the economic cycle. It doesn't matter who the president is, who the governor is. It's just a natural part of the economic cycle. And the last economic downturn saw us making cuts in all departments, including the police department. Code enforcement was gone away. And of course now, as per some of the discussions we've had recently with Mayor Pro Tem Alves, we need to get it back. But that was lost. The training budgets were in jeopardy, and it really put us in a tight spot. And the last thing we need, I think, as a community, is to let our guard down for the next downturn and have to cut safety as well as everything else accordingly. Because unfortunately, though business goes down in recession, building goes down in recession, everything goes down in recession, crime doesn't seem to go down in a recession, unfortunately. In fact, often it might go up. So I really would like to see if we can do anything we can to avoid that situation again. And that's why the notion has been bandied about a possible sales tax increase, something like 0.5% for public safety as a way to keep our defense up, be it good times, be it bad times. Okay, regardless of the, to keep the staffing levels up, to keep the code enforcement up, right, and to keep everything related to public safety strong in this town so we can continue to be a strong, safe town regardless of the economic cycle. So, like I say, that's what I'd like to do, is see if there's some way to build our safety services to essentially be somewhat recession-proof or as recession-proof as possible. And in a lot of communities, actually, the way they do that is to entertain and go through and pass a sales tax increase. We are, I believe, the lowest in San Joaquin County at 7.25%. So you'd be looking at 7.75%. And believe me, nobody wants to raise taxes. I don't like to raise taxes, but I also like to say that I've done everything I could, and we've done everything we could to keep our community as safe as possible for us, our elderly, our youth, for everybody. And so I'd like to get some input and thoughts as to what you guys think about that. And not everybody wants.
How much are you gonna raise it?
0.5%?
0.5%?
So what are we at now?
7.75.
Where are we?
7 what?
7.75.
Yeah.
And you will raise a half?
How much more revenue will
That'll
that
make it
generate?
8.25?
8.25, correct.
How much more revenue?
Potentially, approximately $300,000.
That would pay for 2 officers.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, right now, I think we can pay for, we were able to get those 2 officers in the budget this year.
We were, but it did have a deficit to it, too.
Well, yeah, but I'm also looking at when things will naturally go
Correct.
down again, to
Right.
fortify that defense. I hate to keep saying defense because it's football season, but that's how I'm looking at it. You know, defense wins championships and defenses keep a town safe.
What's the average of other cities around here? 8+.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I have a complete list if you want to know specifically. It's like, well, in San Joaquin County, Lathrop is 8 3/4. Manteca's 8 1/4. Stockton is 9, and Tracy is 8 1/4. And I know in Stanislaus County, it's lower, but Ceres and Oakdale are both at 8.375.
I have some comments on this. So what this comes down to is there's no more people in town. There's no more increase in sales tax. There's no more increase in property tax because there's no new building and there's no new customers. And those are the 2 things that generate your budget, which pay for your police. Am I correct in that statement? Your property tax, your sales tax,
Well,
for the most part?
primarily, yeah.
Okay, so in general. So basically what we can do is you have 2 choices. You can ask everybody that lives in Escalon to pay more in their taxes. So we can do a sales tax increase, which, and the justification, so everybody knows, is there's a lot of people who pass through this town. So we're gonna tax people that don't necessarily live here. They're gonna contribute to this community. And that's fine. I mean, that sounds good. But it does also increase what I have to pay as a local businessman, what I have to charge people. I have to raise my prices. I have to do all these things. I don't want to do that because I'm being forced to. So that's one issue. I think this comes down to the crux of the issue. This is the whole reason I ran for city council, is we have to look at the dreaded G word of growth. We have to face the fact that if there's no new homes being built in this town, if there's no new customers, if there's no new sales, and I'm talking about sales, I'm talking about total sales, not just the price we tax per continuous sale. I just want to bring that up. I don't want to get into a big discussion about it tonight, but it's something we need to think about. I'm in big favor of having a safe community, having the money to pay for additional officers. I want to live in a safe town. I have 4 small children. And I love seeing the cops drive around my neighborhood, and I see it a lot, and I like it. But I wanted to bring that up. The last thing I wanted to bring up on this issue is that I took a look at the general plan. You can go online and view it. It's a document. It's like 400 pages long, Dominique, right? And if you look at it, it's kind of broken down into decades. So from 1970 to 1980, 80 to 90, et cetera. There's been a consistent growth in this town of 1,000 to 1,500 people every year. You know, you went from 4,000 to 5,500 to 5,500 to this. But for the last 10 years, we've had 0. There's just nothing happening. And we have to decide if that's what we want to do. Do we want to stay where we are forever, or do we want to find a way to grow to 9,000 people, 10,000 people? I know that freaks people out. It shouldn't. But it's something to think about. I want to bring it up. I don't want to let it, be something that we're not talking about. So I want to bring that up. Either we tax the people more that are here, or we find a way to increase property taxes and sales tax. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, Councilmember Crumby. And I am making the assumption that we're not going to be going to 8 or 9 or 10 or 11, or 8 or 9,000 people. Okay. If you do, and of course, then again, growth, there are good things about it, but there are also detractors about it. You see some of the larger towns around us, and some of the negative detractors are about it, an increase in crime and an increase in your homeless situations, and increase in, more code enforcement actions. Now, but the question is, what happens first? More police that can be hired as the town grows? Or do you have the negative things that happen first? And that's always a question for debate. So yeah, I just in summary, that's what, making the assumption that our town population is similar to what it is. The staffing level that we have now, and the reason we decided on the 2 extra police officers in June was because this is what we need at this point in 2019. With everything else going on in the state and the world, it seems that we need this to keep this town safe.
I got one comment in response to that. So I typically look at the city of Ripon as a comparison to this town. I don't compare it to Riverbank. I don't compare it to Oakdale. Ripon is about twice the population of Escalon. Ripon has a lower crime rate than Escalon. I want people to remember that. Go look it up. From the research I've done, they have a lower crime rate than Escalon. Their property values are higher than Escalon. So when you make the assumption that, oh, if we grow, our property values are going to go down and our crime is going to increase, it is not true. It is not true. It's how you grow and the steps you do take. So that, I want people to realize that.
I think you hit it right on the head, Peter. That's how you grow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, the town has always been very conservative in terms of growth, and I support that. I think anything, I would entertain the idea of a increase on the sales tax with a moderate amount of growth, very moderate. Because with the people that go through our community, which is about, 5 million people go through this town a year, you add that to your coffers, and then a moderate growth, like trying to get some senior housing built, which is, it's a task, but that's one thing. Just to grow, to be growing, I'm not in favor. I think we have to have a little more organized thought in what we're gonna grow, why we're building and what we're gonna put in those buildings. And I think the key to that is your infrastructure has to be in place first. What you don't wanna do is build a bunch of houses and then all of a sudden realize you got no sewer capacity, or you got roads that there's so much traffic you can't stand it, your schools are inundated. If you do all your due diligence before you grow, it's a lot better and a lot less impacting you. And I think that's the key to growth, and I think it's less noticeable that way too.
So, like I say, so to manage this part of the puzzle in terms of public's, safety, what I'd like to know is if there is a consensus or to go forward and maybe explore this issue a little more.
We should do
You
a
know.
water-based survey, buddy.
So, well,
Water bill-based.
and actually, there was a question, I think, Tammy, you were talking about there's polling out there, or the things that we can take advantage of to,
Yeah, there are consultants out there that can do some polling to see if there is the desire in the community based on the voters, basically. It's
Can we
based
for-
on those that are
Can
registered
we
to vote.
forego the consultants and just do a water survey? It's about the same thing. We don't have to pay them 40 grand to figure out what we already know.
my hesitation with consultants is, first thing that I'd want to do is, okay, what's your methodologies? Because I know a lot of them are very cookie cutterish with their methodologies, and so that concerns me a little bit.
What are they gonna tell us that a water
you know.
survey is not gonna tell us?
But the problem, you're talking water survey, you're
Well,
referencing the newsletter that we send out
Right.
with our water
Right.
bills. So that's limited to what you can do. We did the recent survey that we did regarding parks and recreation. There's flaws in what's available out there to do that polling.
Well, consultants are flaws too. I've seen their stuff. If you're a consultant and your objective is to get support for something, you're gonna slant it that way. What I want is a non-slanted survey, where people can actually have their own opinion without being pushed one direction or the other. And every time you get a consultant, they have an objective, and their objective is to get that thing through. And I don't think that's the way to do a survey. I think you need to do a survey unbiasedly and let the people have a response to the honest question. Are you willing to raise your sales tax? Are you willing to have moderate growth? Ask them point blank. I don't like when the consultants come out and go, and if you do this, we'll build you this and we'll do that. That's garbage.
Sounds like time for another community meeting.
I tell you.
So, like I say, so first of all, is there a thought out there that this is not a crazy idea, that maybe we should be looking ahead, or should we just roll the dice and see what happens for the next recession?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Of that tax increase, how much of that money stays in the community and how much of it gets distributed up to the state, county?
Good point.
Well, that
We're gonna
that
get
would be
percentage.
our percentage of the sales tax. So the
Whatever
state,
your-
yeah,
Whatever your voters approve, that's the city's tax.
And the
It's like an
state's-
increment.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can raise it in 1/8%, by 1/8% increments. And that's all the cities.
That remains here for.
Correct.
For this community and our use.
Absolutely.
When we build a residential home, what kind of developer impact fees does that house generate for the city?
Well, the impact fees are not gonna fund your police staffing, it's gonna fund like your buildings and stuff like that. For a single family, I wanna say impact fees across the board for all the different departments,
About 48,000.
yeah.
So one house generates $48,000. It's distributed around the various.
It's distributed between City Hall, Police
Parks,
Department,
everything.
Parks, recreation.
Wow.
For public improvements,
Yeah.
not services.
And that's the key. That does not generate income for personnel.
Correct.
No, no.
That goes strictly to
improvements.
improvements.
A
in the
sales tax would go right into your general fund.
I think that's an important distinction to make, to know how much is gonna stay here and what can we use it for? Because there's so many funds out there and money that is available that can only be used for specific purposes. And you can't necessarily take money that's for facilities and take that money and use that to go hire somebody or pay somebody more in salary. So we have to make sure we make that distinction, so.
And that, actually, and that's a very good point, and Councilmember Legero, that is also a very good point. How can it be ensured if there's a sales tax increase, those monies come in, how can it be assured that they are only going towards public safety? Because if we promote the sales tax vote for public safety, and the public supports it, and I believe that's a 2/3 margin for public safety, what assurance do they have that it will be for public safety?
So you would need to set some benchmarks, and whether that's, that you set a benchmark that your public safety is going to be funded a set percentage from the general fund, or your staffing levels are gonna remain at a set mark. So you would set some benchmarks to identify and make sure that that funding is covering those.
Okay. So at this point, conceptually, what do you guys think about pursuing this as an option?
I thought a sales tax increase took a 51% vote.
Well, that's, a general tax does. A general sales tax only requires a 51
Okay.
majority vote. But if you restrict it to one purpose, you have to have.
So if we
two-
designate it for
a
public
2/3 vote.
safety,
Right. You
Yeah,
gotta
so,
have 2/3.
so, I mean, my recommendation is that you not restrict it. You could say, you could tell the public that that's what you intend to use it for, but the reality is it has to be, if it's a general tax, it has to be available for any public purpose. And you could use it for your parking lot, or your parks, your sewer, and whatever.
pay the city council more.
Pardon me?
Oh, no. But, and I think, and to be honest with you, and a general increase, at that point, I would say, yeah, we really better break out the plan, because I just don't know how that would go in this town. And the only reason for that, it is a conservative town. It is a very fiscally, conservative town, and so I just don't know how that would
Well,
go. And I know it sounds like, well, why would you want to go for the higher bar? Because I think that is a more realistic argument to make, that, okay, we want to use it in this direction.
Restricted, I'm not good.
I mean, what would you guys think theoretically? A general sales tax or a restricted sales tax for public safety?
Personally, I want to restrict it.
Okay.
I would say a general sales tax with the intention and the communication to the community that what we're gonna use the money for.
Well, that's probably gonna be a restricted sales tax then. Because
Well,
I think a
Well,
general.
no,
I would say what we intend to use the
So
money
you
for.
can put the question on the ballot to say, for public, in order to hire 2 police officers and other necessary, you can word it so that, it emphasizes public safety in the question. And then the other thing that some cities do is they put the sales tax measure on, and then they also have an advisory measure. It's a separate question that says, if measure, so let's say measure A is the sales tax, measure B says, if measure A passes, would you want this to be used for public safety? And then how many, what the vote was. So
Yeah. And
That's,
that,
it's, but it just can't be legally restricted. in
Right.
order
Right.
for
that's
the-
my thing is, I'm not in favor of higher taxes, I'm in favor of lower taxes. And if, what we're talking about is raising everybody, what we're talking about is making people pay more to live in this town. That's ultimately what we're saying.
Or to buy things.
Whatever, you're right, to buy a gallon of milk in Escalon's now, it's gonna cost you a little bit more. And
No.
if we,
Wait, no, it's not
Not
on
for food
food,
items.
not on food. There's no sales tax.
well, okay, then I guess I need to learn more about this. What is sales tax, what is taxed on a sales tax measure?
Well, any goods other than food,
Than food or
because,
anything that
because
you can-
for that
other
reason.
than food, other than food.
Cars,
Food is
hardware.
a necessity. Yeah, cars, clothes,
On cars, okay.
hardware,
Well, regardless, that's my point is that we should have, you don't raise taxes, you just sell more of what you already have, is kind of my thought process. And, that's kind of my thinking on this, and so, I don't know. I do think this is definitely something, if you're going to, which we don't do this a lot in Escalon, right, small town, we all know each other. This is the type of thing you have a community meeting about, and you go, this is what we're thinking of doing, we're thinking of taxing you guys more, what do you think? And then ask, what do they want? And they go, well, we don't want that. Okay, well, we won't do it. Or, yeah, we're okay with that because we're gonna hire new police officers. I think that's a very basic, something we should do. We had a good response last community meeting, so I think that, I'd be in favor of that.
You guys feel more comfortable doing something like that?
Well, you find
You
out
know.
who cares and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, they may not at all tell you how the vote would end up going down at the end, But, like I say, I'm just asking for input on this. I think it's, never a bad idea to be looking ahead and planning ahead. You know it's gonna eventually happen in the next downturn. Of course, like I say, I was around, and I think, you guys were around for the last downturn, and we saw what happened. And, it's gonna happen. What can you do to prevent it
I
ahead of
would be
time?
open to exploring it, 'cause it's going to go to the vote of the people. They're
Sure.
going to actually decide whether they want to do this or not. But, I would certainly, since we have to have this in March, was that right? Was
well,
that-
no, you can have it either in March or you can have it in November.
My hesitation with November is, again, talking with the school board and their situation with the Dent School. They seem pretty serious about the notion of, we need to get this project bonded. There are 4 phases of the project. They only have enough money for this first phase that you see now. And typically what you see on ballots where you have multiple measures that, they end up, all you see is measure. Take money out of my pocket. No, 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 no. Versus reading every single one.
Right.
And like I say, there's been study after study that proves that that's probably not the best idea. So that's why I'd prefer to have, this fail on its own merit,
So we could do it, so we could put it on the March ballot. In order to, so the general rule is that a tax has to go on the same election when city council members are elected, unless you make findings that there's an emergency, which is, they're pretty, fiscal emergency. You would list, why the city needs this additional money, what services are.
So it's gotta go in November, because we're not in the
No, no, you just put the fiscal emergency findings in your resolution. It's very common, cities do this all the time. They just state their reasons why raising
why
this
you'd like to
money.
do it in March instead of,
Yeah, that's all, yeah, that's
Right,
the only
okay,
difference.
okay.
And how, I do need to say, to pass that resolution, it has to be a unanimous vote of the council members to pass that. And then to pass the ordinance, you need a 2/3 vote, which is 4. So the council really needs to be on board with this to go forward.
Okay.
So, the resolution with the fiscal emergency is a unanimous vote, so doesn't mean that every council member has to be present to vote, but all of the ones
Sure.
there, it has to be unanimous.
So at this point, like I said, want to get some input, want to know what you guys thought about it. I don't know if there's any kind of a consensus at this point. I know, well, let me ask you guys, each one of you, what do you think? Should we have staff pursue this as a thought? I mean, maybe you go ahead and you put a few things on, something on Facebook, you know, as a survey and just see what happens? I mean, granted, it's completely unscientific. Or what do you think?
I don't mind an unscientific venture, a water bill survey or Facebook, but that's where I'd start.
Yeah, how much do consultants cost, like polling consultants?
A lot.
Is it, and are the results better than?
Consultants always have a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
Just look at the last presidential
And
election.
I will say that.
See how
the-
close they were.
The consultants are when they're doing the polling, they are a polling consultant. So the outcome of the polls doesn't weigh on them. They're only there to gather that information. They're not in the efforts typically after that.
So, Tammy, what's your opinion as a city manager? What's more effective, a water bill survey or hiring a consultant to do a survey? Because when you send out flyers or mailers, right, you get a 2 or 3% return. That's just what you get. I think on the water bill survey or the one you guys sent out in the email, Survey Monkey, you probably got a 3 or 4% return from everybody. There you go. Do polling companies return higher than that?
I
we get a
haven't
better-
did enough research to know that, honestly.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
because if they're not, let's not pay the money.
right, yeah. I don't have that experience, honestly, to tell you that.
Okay.
Well, would it not be a bad idea? You
I
wanna
I can investigate
look
that.
Look into
But
that?
we could still, we can still do the Survey Monkey on Facebook and the webpage, and I can still, inquire with the polling companies to find out.
Are you guys okay with consensus on that?
On what?
Yes.
On going forward with the Survey Monkey, looking at what the polling companies would do? We have a little bit of time before the March deadline still, correct?
We do,
I'm
yeah.
okay with that.
Okay, you okay with that?
As long as
Is
it
that
doesn't cost any
consensus?
money, I can do it.
Okay?
We have
Yeah.
to get our resolution to the county by December 6th.
Okay,
We got
okay.
plenty of time.
Let's just throw it out, so then come back maybe the next meeting with some information regarding the polling companies and what they would do. And by the way, I would love to be able to sit in and find out what some of their methodologies are. Because this has happened in the distant past, you know, where we've had people want to do a poll then and this and poll that, and you find out how they do it, and you're like, oh no, that doesn't work here.
Well, we have some members from the audience here now, so that, if they want to chime in during the matters from the audience and let us know what you think, we might as well get some instant feedback.
That's a good idea. So let's do this. Are we okay with consensus for Tammy to Survey Monkey it up and then come back with the polling companies? Is it okay?
You
So-
can come back with a proposal, not a commitment.
No, I'm gonna get some more information from the
No
polling
commitments,
companies.
no
and-
commitments.
Well, sure.
So let's jump into matters presented from the audience. And,
Also on the monkey thing, I want to see the wording on it.
oh, good point, Tammy,
What
if
was
you
that?
don't mind on the survey, on the monkey thing, on the survey.
what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Would it be possible before you put anything out, can you have something like in our mailboxes or email us or something, just for the wording? Is that okay?
I'm sorry, can you,
For the Survey Monkey, before you put anything out on Facebook, is that?
Oh.
We need to have something in our
I'll
mailboxes.
share it with you guys.
We need to know what it's gonna say beforehand.
Okay.
In other words, okay? And so, at this time, the public can address the council on any item that's not on the agenda. We would like to try to keep it to 5 minutes. It's already 5 after 8, and so that the meeting doesn't last till 11:30. If you can try to keep your comments short and succinct, and I'd appreciate it very much. Hi.
Hi, Debbie Harris, 1738 Alicante. Hello, Robert Swift and councilman and the staff. First, I want to give a shout out to the wonderful landscaping that's on Brennan. Since I live in that area, it's like the first street to 120, and it's always so well maintained, and I always am walking with my granddaughter and such, and it's really beautiful. So I appreciate that very much. And the second thing I'd like to do is have some discussion on our community park, and perhaps maybe we can come up to some kind of resolution or something on how we're going to move forward with some funding, or thoughts anyway. And it seems like we have been thinking about and working on this community project for decades. I mean, it started over in Ullery, and then we were able to exchange the property over by the community center, which makes like so much sense. And to me, and I think most people in the community think that that area is really, it's the heartbeat of the community. It's the flagship of our town. I mean, it's one place that it touches every single age group of our town, whether it's the moms taking the toddlers, you know, to the park, to play on the equipment or the swings. And is that the only park that we have swings? It is.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's a reason for that.
Well, Sanchez has them, I think.
Sanchez doesn't have park, but Brentwood.
No, Sanchez does not have swings. I took the swings out at least
Oh,
5 years.
you, I can't believe you did that.
And is that like a liability issue?
State of California law, yeah.
Oh, it's state of
Have to have
California?
so much clearance, is that right? Yeah.
Parents, you can have certain types that you have to have, and
Okay, well, there you go. That's why they're all there, because they are there like every day. We're having our class reunion there on Saturday, so I've been spending a lot of time there, you know, during the week, planning out how we're doing things, and they're there. And then our beautiful, you know, building there, I mean, everybody goes there, whether it's a wedding reception or a fundraiser or a senior project. And then, of course, the city programs on the parks. I mean, on the baseball, soccer, and such. In fact, I didn't realize that there's 670 kids that are participating in that soccer. So if you have just their parents going, not their siblings. Now, my family, when there's someone playing, we have the parents and the grandparents and everybody going. But if you just have that, that is like 2,000 people every Saturday that goes to the park. Anything that happens over there at that park, I tell you, they really appreciate. Any improvements, any enhancements, any benches, I mean, anything. I mean, we're thrilled when there's new items in the snack bar. I mean, it's really something that's important. And, you know, I know that everybody is very, very excited about it. So I guess in going over some of the figures of last week, you know, after all these years of, you know, getting some revenues together, and, you know, the only way we can do that, of course, is by the building permits, which is very limited. I mean, we've all talked about that. And then we have some revenues, I guess, from some of the trees, and then the rental. I mean, we're really, you know, we have to stay focused on exactly what we do with that funding. And we went through the whole process of this beautiful master plan and all these conversations and all this kind of stuff. So at this point, it looks like what we have in June, plus what you guys voted on at the last meeting, that we have, I don't know, maybe 180,000 left after the parking, which is like, I think, 216 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you guys are budgeting for the next year, like by next June, we'll have another 100,000. So is there any reason that we can't move forward with designating that funding for the enhancements of the existing parks and soccer fields? Whether it's just using that money, you know, I mean, there's several things that can be done. I mean, simple things by just adding, you know, benches, maybe, you know, enhance the field a little bit by, you know, I know we're always fighting like the gopher holes and things like that. I mean, it needs more maintenance there. So I don't know if it's like, you know, we have to designate more monies for that. And then laying the groundwork for the additional fields. So I guess my question, is there anything on the table that would allow us not to move forward with designating those funds for those items?
I would imagine those funds are already designated. I mean, they are designated for parks and recreation.
Correct.
And then the debate, as in the last meeting, was, so where, within the parks and recreation sphere, should we spend those funds? And that's what the last meeting was about.
Right.
And so you're right, there are monies left.
Yes.
You know, so the question is, you know, the big question has been, what are we identifying, what is the greatest need? Where do we spend them at? Do we need to spend them now? Do we need to spend them later? And so that's probably gonna be a continual debate going forward, I
Correct.
imagine,
Right.
as well. You know, the biggest challenge with the new park is this.
Well, but if we have, I mean, we have the money. I mean, last week we were gonna decide to give that money to the skate park. So if we have that money and we want to allocate it, why can't we just decide to allocate it within the city? Like, it's the city programs for the baseball and the soccer and the, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Debbie, I misunderstood you. I thought you were also talking about the $15 million expansion, eventual theoretical someday for the big park
I
expansion.
think she was doing a combination.
Yeah, I
But
was just kind of
primary-
moving forward, like,
Yeah.
okay, we have so many right now, can we make some improvements?
Well, like, I'll give you a good case in point. I know that Mayor Pro Tem Alves, and I know that Justin's already been working on a number of physical improvements to the existing part with the fences, things like that.
Right,
And
right,
so that's one area that we're already looking at.
yes.
And like I say, there may very well be other things that come up over time, not just with that park, but with other parks, you know. And I would imagine that if it's a area of need, or especially at this point, because that fund is so fragile, as you correctly identified,
Right.
a definite area of urgency, you know, maybe it would be a bad idea to have that money there. I mean, it's a debate that I think will go on and on.
I know, and I'm just wondering how we trigger the next point, because I just have to be honest, as like a community member, I was really spooked at that last meeting. I mean, my dad came home and he goes to every meeting and he told me, and he said, hey, attention, Will Robinson, we got some problems. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He says, well, it looks like the skate park, which is a fabulous idea, and actually, a group that started, it was gonna be in Main Street, and then, you know, it became part of the plan because it's a great idea, and we've allotted space at our big plan. And the agreement was, if I understand, correct me, is, okay, you know, we're gonna give you the land, but, you know, you have to do your part. And your part is, just like all of us, it's hard to get money, you gotta fundraise, you gotta get grants. So, you know, they're responsible for that. Now, am I missing something? Is that not right?
For all intents and purposes, I think that's where that's where it's at right now. And I'll give you a good case in point. So what ended up happening, what ended up being distilled out of that last meeting was that we will be building the overflow parking lot.
Right.
Because that has been a consistent need that, you know, we've all been hearing for quite a while. And as you know as well, I know several members of the audience know, that parking is a definite issue there.
Right.
So therefore, as a real-world need, we have monies to fix that real-world need. And,
Right.
you know, and then we can move on from there with other, you know, thoughts and ideas. But yes, essentially, what's on the plate right now was the long-term parking. So your description of where the skate park's at the moment, yes, that's where it's at. They'll continue funding otherwise at the moment.
So then, but what triggers the next step? I mean, how is it that we decide, okay, we have 350,000, you know, in 2021, or someone makes a presentation and say, I want you to spend this money? I mean, does it have to be like a formal presentation, or where does the information come
Well,
from?
I'll give you an example, like with the overflow parking. You know,
Okay.
when you get to the point where you hear council members talking about it, like Councilmember Fox did last fall, when you hear the public talking about it, when you hear the rec commission coming to you talking about it, when you drive by and you see it, and you see kids scrambling along Belota and Arthur, it becomes rather obvious that, yeah, we might need to fix this issue. Another issue is, again, what Mayor Pro Tem Alves has talked about with the state of the, a lot of the cyclone fencing down there. It has turned into a real safety hazard that needs to be addressed. So I think that's how these items come up, and ultimately it's a matter of consensus by not just us, but the community. It becomes really obvious, we need to spend the money in this
I
direction.
have a comment too about that. I think we're going a bit long here. I know there's a lot of other people who want to talk, but I would just make
Sorry.
make one comment quick. I hear what you're saying. I have 2 kids right now that go play soccer there. It's 2,000 people there. There's no parking. It's clearly the hub of activity in Escalon. We should expand. We should have more fields and more parking and more amenities and better playgrounds. I agree with everything you're saying. As far as I'm concerned, there's only 2 ways to pay for that. One is you do a designated bond where, again, you tax everybody and say, let's pay for an expanded regional park or whatever. That's one. The other way is through developer impact fees. So you're going to need to bring somebody into Escalon to say, build us a bunch of houses and build us a great park. You've got, people in this town have got to understand you're not going to have that big park unless you're taxed more or you're willing to build some houses. That's what it comes down to, and everybody needs to start understanding that.
Debbie, I really
Yeah,
appreciate.
we did all that, yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and move on to something
Yes,
else,
yes,
but I
thank you
appreciate,
very
and
much.
you have
Okay.
all of our numbers.
Yes,
Please
okay.
feel free.
All right.
Okay, and thank you very much for your input.
I would state another thing too is, during our budget time, our CIP projects are, designated for 3 years out and in the future. So, hearing input from the community, that's what drives some of those projects too, and looking at the future. And as you noted, the fencing will be coming back to the council for too, so.
Very good, okay. Hello.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cheryl Dagerman. I live on Danielle Street. And my purpose in being here tonight is to bring awareness and to get the dialogue going about the problem that we're having in our community, in our neighborhood, with illegal fireworks. Yesterday, Sunday morning, 2:30 in the morning, I was awoken again with an incredible boom. I mean, it was terrifying. It was the worst that we've experienced yet. And I thought it was gunfire. All of us came out of bed. And after that, it happened 2 more times within a half an hour. And I called the non-emergency police, and I understand they've got to catch the culprits in the act. But I wanted my voice to go on record as saying, this is happening. Well, when I talked to the officer on duty, she said, we're being inundated with calls. They're out driving around right now. I went back to bed. I couldn't go to sleep for hours. And I laid there so frustrated, and I got so angry because once again, I felt victimized, and I felt like I couldn't do anything. These bullying tactics are going on. They're increasing. I would estimate maybe 10, 12, 15 times so far this year. It used to be centered around the 4th of July. It's not anymore. And I laid there so mad, and I thought, you know what? I can sit here and be mad, or I can get up and do something about it. So yesterday, I got out of bed, and I started knocking on as many doors as I could. And I made contact with 45 of my neighbors yesterday. And it was real interesting. People, when they think you're a solicitor, they don't want to talk to you. But as soon as I said, are you being awoken by fireworks in the middle of the night? The door opened a little wider. Does it bother you? The door opened full blown. I had full access. Dialogue started happening. People are irritated. They were so happy to have the opportunity to vent to somebody who would listen. And what I learned an awful lot yesterday. Some people were agitated. Others are downright angry. It's having an effect on our community. From things like dogs being terrified. We've got cancer patients in the neighborhood who are awoken in the middle of the night with this disturbing behavior. And it's affecting them. Children being awoken in the middle of the night. I'm not making this stuff up. You can go on the Facebook page, Escalon Residents. Dialogue has gotten started there. A lot of people started jumping in on the conversation today. One woman even told me that they lost their horse as a result of the fireworks. And that didn't happen last night, but it happened recently. And anybody who understands animal behavior understands they'll do anything, they'll harm themselves trying to escape a perceived threat. This woman lost her horse. Another woman, last night's incident, or Sunday night's incident, she did have 2 horses become very sick. So it's affecting us. And one thing that I did not anticipate as a result of going around and talking to my neighbors is that this problem is pitting us against each other. Neighbors are angry with each other. They all think they know where the problem is coming from. I started on my side of the street, and the people on the other side thought it was the people behind them. Well, I worked my way around the neighborhood and got into that court where the perceived problem was, and everybody over there was pointing even further. No, there's a problem over there. And there definitely is a problem on the far side of the neighborhood. There's one house that's keenly a problem, and apparently the police department know about it. I don't know personally that situation, but everybody knows that there is one very serious problem house in the neighborhood. So many people were pointing in that direction. They're the culprits. They're guilty. They're guilty. And it's pitting us against each other. It's making each other mad. It's dividing us.
Are these kinds of fireworks, I'm going to assume they're like an M80 where you hear just mostly an explosion versus a firework that in the air?
This is my neighbor.
Yeah.
I see Peter out his back window at 3 o'clock, 3:05 in the morning, looking out his back window as I'm looking out my garage
She needs to
door.
come up.
Because it looked like 1,000.
Can you come up to the podium, please?
We actually have the box of spent explosives that took off at 2:30 in the morning.
Really?
The woman who's in possession of that, I don't believe she's here tonight. She was going to bring it here. And we also have on surveillance video the culprits that set off those fireworks. The people that did it, it was 5 youth. They were on foot, moving through our neighborhood. They set the fireworks off down in the pit, the park, over across from Shalane.
Uh-huh.
And they set off a motion detector light next to the house, right next to the park. As they went into the park, set off the fireworks. As they took off, you can see the explosions happening behind them. They ran down to the end of Genevieve, and that's where the surveillance video cut off. But as I continued to talk to my neighbors, they did move on down Genevieve. And one of my neighbors had her window open, and she said they were communicating through whistles to each other. Genevieve is a very dark street. There's lots of shadows for them to hide in. So, do I have the answers? No, I don't. But what we do have, there's facts. It's happening with more frequency. It's always happening at night. Always. It's catching us off guard. These explosives are not the kinds that kids can get their hands on. There's adults providing the explosives. And, there's suspicion that maybe they're moving around and setting them off in different locations. I know for a fact they did not set them off over at the dinosaur park. That was speculated as a possibility from Sunday night. I checked with neighbors over there. It did not happen over there. I don't have the answers, but we need to get the dialogue going. It's becoming a really serious problem. I was hearing from people who are like, I think it's gunfire. I'm certain it's gunfire. And well, if it isn't gunfire, are we going to become so desensitized to these fireworks that when it is actually gunfire, we're not going to respond appropriately?
Right.
This is really getting serious. And a lot of people expressed concern that they were concerned about fire, about, something igniting in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's very serious.
I do know somebody who lit off illegal fireworks a couple years ago, and the Escalon Fire Department had to come out, put them out, and it's very costly if you are caught with illegal fireworks. Evidently, these people don't know that.
Probably not.
It's very costly.
Yeah.
And I hate to throw this to the chief at this point. I don't know what communication you've had with the chief on this issue.
I only
but-
called the non-emergency
Okay.
the other night. I know a number of people have called.
I would like to chime in too, just because I was mentioned. I called the cops too, and I was like the 5th caller, and I guess I ended up having, 15 or so calls. I thought it was gunfire too. I hopped out of my bed, I was like looking for my gun. I'm like, I'm gonna have to take somebody out, and it was terrifying. Woke me up, and I hate it. And these people that are doing this are disturbing the whole neighborhood and scaring everybody, and but again, I don't know what the answer is, but I appreciate Cheryl coming in here, my neighbors, and bringing this item up, and maybe we can do something, but I'm in support of doing something.
I'm concerned about people taking matters into their own hands. When people get angry enough, when they've been victimized enough, and they feel helpless, they start to take matters into their own hands. And I heard from some voices yesterday that they were like, I want to get my hands on these people. I'm over this. I'm losing sleep. It's disturbing my kids, my dogs, my house. I'm over it. It's time to get it dealt with. So anyway, I'm bringing the voice from the community. I know there's others that want to speak on
I
this
just worried
subject.
because I have firewood, and I do my own firewood, so I cut my shavings. I have boxes of shavings. One spark, everything in my backyard's going up in fire. So, because I do
Right.
fires.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen, it looked like 1,000 sparklers going off in my backyard.
Yeah.
It was wild.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Can we
Well,
get
I
your
mean-
name and address?
About 2 weeks ago, we had the same thing over on our side of town. 2 weeks ago, we had it, and it was late at night, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and it was over by the cannery. The sound felt like it was coming from the cannery area. And we had 2 of them go off, and my dog flipped, and he always does. But so it's been going around town, actually.
Well, that's what really surprised me about the online dialogue today. Our neighborhood has been so bad. Others from all over town were chiming in. It's not just our neighborhood,
No,
it's
it's around.
everywhere.
Whoever's doing it's having a fun time.
Yeah. All
I
right.
don't know if you guys get a chance maybe later after the meeting, just, I don't know if there's anything to and I appreciate the fact that you appreciate how difficult it is for the police to catch them.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
like I say, obviously, these little little mini terrace here
Well-
need to be stopped. Huh?
In fact, last night when the calls came in, there was one residence that came to mind, and the officers actually staked it out, trying to, and we were dealing with this from 2:37 in the morning until 3:44 in the morning. We were sent from Genevieve, Shalane, to Sacramento Street, to the high school, to Campbell. That's where we went throughout for the about hour and a half we were dealing with this last night.
Have you found the residue of these explosives anywhere?
No, and the thing is that even with the residue or with the spent, it doesn't do us any good because
Just
you can't
curious.
trace them.
Yeah.
And unless we catch somebody in the act, or we have witnesses that can put the device in somebody's hand, where our prosecution is limited, we've found that out in 4th of July with the numbers we cited and how many are actually getting prosecuted.
Oh.
I have just a question too. So I know at the community center at Hogan Park, on that main light that's shining onto the equipment, there's security cameras. Are those
Correct.
are those looped? I mean, those are recording, obviously, all the time?
They don't record all the time. They are motion censored for recording.
Okay, so I'm wondering if it's possible to put similar cameras on the street lights. You know, I know there's an expense involved here, but if there's a way to put street light cameras that are focused on those pit areas where they launched them. But I'm just trying to think, you're never gonna be
Yeah.
able to catch these people in the act, you know, but you wanna
Right.
be able to,
Yeah.
on a camera.
Or at least
So-
a $200 bear camera. I mean, really, like
I was
that.
just
that,
gonna
you
mention
know.
game camera.
Yeah,
would
game
probably be-
camera.
Because
Is-
where it becomes with what you're wanting, then the
No.
internet,
And
Wi-Fi, it's harder to hook a camera up. to
Any
just
sort
a
of,
street light.
yeah, like you're saying, just focused on certain areas in town where these people maybe are doing something, because it's happening all over. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Cheryl, I appreciate you coming in. There's
Absolutely.
a lousy situation,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it's probably just only gonna take time and vigilance on everybody's part.
Well, I'm willing to work with Uniting the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
To work with the police department, to maybe gather the evidence from surveillance cameras
Yeah.
that people have, to do whatever we need to do.
Sure, sure.
Okay? So thank you so much for listening
All
tonight.
right, hey, thank you. Hopefully get this thing resolved sooner rather than later. Anybody else like to speak tonight before we proceed to the administrative matters? Yes, Dave?
Dave Willis, 425 Sultana. I just heard a good reason for a sales tax increase for more police.
Wow. That is one, yes. Thank you. That is one. Anybody else before we move on to administrative matters? Going once. Let's move on to administrative matters. Item number 5, and I'm going to assume this is you, Tammy.
Yes. So, Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the consideration of a waiver of the community center rental fees for the Volunteer Senior Program fundraiser and potentially future events. In the past few months, a group of volunteers, Ann Shaddix, Peggy Rocha, and Tina Jensen, have started organizing social events for the seniors in the communities, These events are currently planned for once a month, and tonight, Ann Shaddix will be presenting the plans for this program and events. As part of their effort, the group has requested the community center in February 2020 for a program fundraiser. The group is asking that the city council waive the fees for the community center. And in the staff report, I did list the standard rental fees, whether it would be a nonprofit user or residents within the 95320 zip code. For nonprofits, it's a total of $650, and for residents within our zip code, it's $1,075. So there is a potential of losing revenue of $425 to $850, and there will be a cost of $225 for the cleaning after the event. The current social events are being held in the senior room at the community center, but there is the potential of them needing to expand into the main hall. And should this happen, there is the potential of additional cleaning fee of $225. If the event grows, the council is asked to consider waiving related fees to these efforts, and if there should be a limit to the number of events with the fee waiver. So, Ann, if you'd like to come up and let the council know some of your
group's plans.
Yes, thank you very much. And you should know that the whole discussion of the senior activities came from the program that you had at the community center. Because I sat there and I listened to the people and I kept thinking, why don't we have a senior program? But I didn't have nerve enough to get up to the microphone and ask that question. So afterwards I did. I went to the mayor and said, can we do something? Our seniors are going to Oakdale and Ripon and Modesto. Why can't we do something here? And he said, well, that's because we have no one to lead it. So you lead it, and we may be able to make it happen. So I said, okay, I didn't really know what I had done, but thanks to Tammy, who spent time with me, Ed, who spent time explaining the use of the community center, the history of the senior room, and so forth. Then I got an unbelievable team, which is Peggy and Tina, and we sat down and we planned our first activity. And I know that some of you were at the first activity, and that was an ice cream social, and it was so successful. We had over 60 people. We had expected to just use the senior room, but we were on overflow. We had to set up additional tables. Now, I will tell you that we have an event planned for each month through the end of the year, and it's my hope that we will set up 2 to 4 to 6, whatever. I want it to overflow into the big room because there is a need here to have programs for seniors. And we're going to start with just having some fun things through the end of the year. But in February, as Tammy said, on February the 8th, we do need to do a fundraiser. What we talked about, the team talked about, how are we going to fund these things this year? And we really, really didn't want to go ask the merchants for donations because they get asked for so many gift certificates and baskets. And so we were trying to think of a way to raise money to help us fund it. And fortunately, the service organizations, the Rotary and the Kiwanis came through, gave us seed money to get started, and now I understand that Lions is going to do the same thing. So that will give us some seed money to get going. But when we have the fundraiser, that fundraiser will help us continue our programs and continue to offer opportunities in the community. So I'm asking you to waive those fees. I think it will take us 2 years to kind of work through different programs, hear what the seniors want, and to be able to kind of establish how many times a month we were going to have a program, how many times we can fit in the senior center, and how many times we would have to branch out. We've only had one event so far, but we've gotten so much feedback. I'm really expecting this to continue to grow, and it is truly, truly a service that you're providing to the seniors in Escalon. And it is our hope, and it's what we're all about, is letting every senior in this town know that there's an open door for them to come through and to have some fun and meet some friends and just get out of those chairs and get out and enjoy some activities. So I am asking you to waive the fees, to partner with us, to help develop this program, and we'll do it together, and I believe it will be very successful.
And quick question, your next event is on what day, September?
September the 25th, and that is a good good old days. And then in October, there will be a Halloween kind of a festival. In November, we will honor the veterans in Escalon. And December, we'll have a hometown Christmas. So we've got something. We've got a great team now. Cindy Marino has also joined the team, and Claudia Alves will be joining as well.
What time is the function on the 25th?
We moved it to 1:30 to 3:30 because that's when the people could get transportation to the center.
It's in the middle of the week, right?
Yes.
1:30 to 3:30.
Yes.
And we will need to talk about December. That's when we're targeting to redo the parking lot, so we'll need to touch base about that. I just want to mention that real quick.
Yes, because once we've set a date, we're already engaging people to be on the schedule, which we have for that day. So, yes, let's go talk about it as soon as possible.
Well, the reason I asked about the next meeting on the 25th, because if you have a chance to go, please go. I went to their first get-together last month, and I'm going to tell you, between Ann, Peggy, and everybody else, there's a wild oil machine. They had kiddos from the high school helping them serve the ice cream. They had a wellness medic from Rite Aid. I mean, everything they did. And I know we've all gone to certain different activities in this town and different social functions. They have their act together. And I know that you said, what did seniors do before? They'd go to Oakdale and other towns. And as you know, many just wouldn't go anywhere.
Absolutely.
We can't, it's been an uphill battle to get senior housing in this town forever. But this is something that, because of Ann and her group, that we can do for the seniors. And many of these people who went to that meeting, and I know who are going to go to the next one, I know they're looking forward to going to that next one, they would have been in their house instead, sitting, feeling sorry for themselves, shuttered up. You have no idea how many seniors in this town fit that description. Yes, there were many outgoing seniors and people, that we all know, that we see, some of them, they come to these meetings down here. But there were many that I remember seeing from years ago, when I was much younger, and I go, I didn't know so-and-so was still alive. But this brought them, I hate to put it like that, but it brought them out.
Absolutely.
The reason you don't know is because they were hidden away in their houses. So in terms of the notion of waiving the fees, and if we're looking at $650, right, per rental?
Yes.
I mean, versus the price of, versus what we would be doing for some of the seniors in this community, giving them something to look forward to, getting them something to rekindle friendships with with old companions, giving them something that, that they all desperately need, that socialization that we all need. That's a very easy thing, in my opinion, for us to do, is to waive those fees.
I would make a motion to waive the fees.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion has been made and seconded to waive the community center fees for the Escalon Fund Senior Bunch. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for all of your efforts
Thank
in
you.
that, too.
And moving on to item number 6. Tammy, or is this Dominique, or this is the chief?
I think I was elected.
Very good. You drew the short straw.
Appointed is the word.
Mayor, council, before you is a consideration for revoking a business license number 4407 for Lucky Spa, that's located at 2239 Jackson Avenue. As staff report indicates, the reasoning behind the request for the revocation result is for violating various sections of chapter 5.32 of our Massage Ave establishment regulations, as well as 5.04.220, which states in part unlawful business is prohibited via the Escalon Municipal Code. On September 3rd at 11:37 a.m., the police department conducted an undercover operation at this establishment in response to complaints of suspected prostitution taking place at the business. During the operation, the undercover decoy was able to have an arrangement made in exchange money for sexual services, which resulted in the arrest of the two persons that were present. One of those persons present was the manager listed for the operation. The other was the technician who was actually involved in the exchange. Also, as indicated in the staff report, we have enumerated the 8 different municipal code violations that we believe were violated during this, including that the operator of the business responsible for the employee's misconduct, massage being conducted by a person not possessing required certificates and not approved to work at the facility. Again, the massage therapist certificate not being there, advertising with sexually suggestive images, evidence that persons were living on the facility, massage being conducted by a person not requiring the certificates via the CMT or the national. Further, other additional ones for advertising sexually suggested, and the last one, the unlawful business prohibited, which says in part, any business, game, or activity shall be considered unlawful pursuant to the section if it violates either federal or state law. Thus, we are asking that the council take in consideration the provision that allows it to revoke a business license if good cause is shown, and we believe the evidence from this undercover operation does state that, or does exhibit that.
How long was this place in business? Like a minute?
It's been in operation for several months, if not years. I believe maybe Dominique has a
It's
better
not the
idea.
same owner, though.
Not the same.
Yeah.
Under this ownership, it's probably been at least a year.
Interesting. Well, I'd move on.
Well, I believe there may be somebody in the.
Well, there's a hearing required
Oh, okay.
for the owner. It's not a general public hearing, it's just a chance for the owner to speak if they want to.
As in a public hearing, or?
Yeah,
No,
well,
But I don't see it listed as a public hearing.
No, this is listed as an appeal.
So,
The
so
council-
the owner of the business is here and could have the right to
Okay,
speak.
fair enough.
Yeah. Mhm.
Sounds good.
Come speak.
Yeah, please,
Come speak.
please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Li Wang. I'm the Lucky Spa owner, but my English is poor, so I bring my translator to translate for Asian women fair rights. Okay.
So, hi, my name is Janice, and this is what Li Wang wrote on the statement. I just translate literally from this piece of paper. So first of all, so some people has the discrimination on the race and bias for those young Asian women who work for the massage field. They want us out from this town for those pieces. Policemen, they make up the lines, intend to slander me, twist the fact, and cannot deceitfully to revoke my license like this. The second point is to my spa shop. I have a restrict employment rule. So we are open as a legal massage shop. The hallway and each room has the employment working rule. So to Qing Xiang-Wu's reputation, I had done the investigation on her reputations, and her background is clean. And I am also an honest and reputations good citizen. So I have never done any violation behavior in the United States, although they So, although they make the mistakes without my acknowledgement, and I have unknowns about the situations. And policemen gave me the violation tickets in no reasons. I have spent up all my savings to open my business for the sport shop. This is my first time to open a business. Now you have incurred my severe economic loss. If I cannot get back my business license, I will still keep going to sue up to the federal court for my mental loss and economic loss and discrimination on the Asian young mature woman.
Can we have a
Thank
copy
you.
of what you read to have for the record, please?
I'm sorry?
Can we have a copy of what you read for our record?
Okay. 他说问你可不可以给他一个 copy？
You can have it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Chief, the way this all transpired is someone went into the business and was approached by the employee.
We sent an undercover operative into the business, and the discussion between the operative and the technician was audio recorded and listened to by investigators outside the business.
Okay.
And let's see, Li Wan, right? And Janice?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. If you'd like to stay up there, I don't know if the council has further questions to ask? No? Okay. This is a motionable item, and now I want to make sure I understand this correctly. If the council does not make a motion, then essentially the license is not revoked. So they would need to make a motion in order to revoke the license, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it's just so that everybody knows, so whatever you'd like to do at this point. If you have any more questions, and then Liwan and Janice can help answer them if you don't mind.
I have a question for the chief.
Or for the chief.
Criminal charges pending with the county?
Yes.
And
The case has been submitted to the district attorney's office. We have not, to my knowledge, have a dispo yet.
we have 8 separate municipal codes that were violated.
Correct.
I would renew my motion to revoke business license number 4407 for Lucky Spa at 2239 Jackson Avenue.
A second.
Okay, motion's been moved and seconded to revoke business license 4407 for Lucky Spa at 2239 Jackson Avenue. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
We can go back, have a seat, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Council Communications, Councilmember Crumick.
Thank you, Mayor Swift. I got a couple of things. I think there was some good discussion tonight. I think something that stuck out to me in the paper is that we're not going to be doing the autumn cruise, right?
Correct.
And it's because there's a lack of people to kind of run it.
It's a long story. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, essentially.
You
yeah.
know, we're kind of running into a similar thing with Kiwanis, and I think it speaks to the larger thing going on is I think that we're really, up here on the council and certain members of the community, we're really focused on holding on to this Escalon of the past, but slowly we see things change. You see certain businesses go away, the lumberyard, this and that. Things change ownership and things change, and I think that we need to constantly remember that we've got to move forward as a community, in whatever sense that looks like. And I think that what Mayor Pro Tem Alves said about senior housing, I'm a huge proponent of that. And I think if we could find a way and a place and the infrastructure to do it, then we should make it happen. And I think we should really focus on the future of where we're going and not necessarily hold on to this great nostalgic past. And so I know I hate to bring that up and nobody likes to talk about that. But anyways, I wanted to bring that up. And no, I think it was some good discussion tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing back from PACE, from Andy. That was a big deal to get that passed. Took 5 months. And now that we're getting close to hearing their report, I'm looking forward to that because I think that is a key component to the future of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Crumick. Councilmember Legero.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up with some of the comments that Peter made, one of the things that we need to be smart about is we do have slow growth. We have a growth ordinance, and we really are focused on infill projects, but like Mayor Swift said, the economy is cyclical, so we're going to have booms and busts. And when we have a boom time like we've had, we probably need to focus on taking advantage of that. So when there are projects that meet our ordinances and want to come in and build, so long as we have the infrastructure, as Mayor Pro Tem Alves mentioned, I think it's important that we really take a look at those programs and see if they are good programs to have come in while they are viable. If they're not going to create any additional service problems for us and we can manage them, I think we really need to take a look at those regardless of where they're located or if we need to start considering annexation for particular projects. I think it's a small window of opportunity that we need to take advantage of because the developer impact fees that we talked about are important to generate when we can. The more homes that we have in town, still maintaining our growth ordinance, we have some inventory. People pick those up quickly, and then they start not only paying the developer impact fees, but they also pay property tax on that property. So there's a benefit if we can be smart again in our growth and capture these dollars when we can before we have another economic downturn and don't have another house built in here for another 8 to 10 years. So just food for thought as projects are brought to the city or brought up in front of the council, we need to pay attention to that. I'm going to keep it positive. I got a complaint, and I've been working on that complaint, reviewing some YouTube videos and trying to come to terms with what as an elected official in the city, I was embarrassed by some of the comments and treatment of some people that I watched in the video. But I have kudos for Ms. Trejo. I think she does a magnificent job. I think she is neutral. She answers questions. They're non-judgmental. They are responsive, and I think she's done an excellent job. So please pass that on to her to keep doing what she's doing. And with that, that's all I got.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Legero. Councilmember Merkin.
I would just like to give kudos to the chamber for their recent wine stroll.
Excellent.
It's a great event. They sold 400 tickets. It seemed like there was more people down there than that. And it was bigger this year. They had more wineries, they had more breweries, and they had more food. And it's a real nice event. The weather, a little warm. But with that being said, those people that decided to show up and be obnoxious and rude and cuss at the people that were taking tickets and issuing the bans, I would appreciate if they didn't show up next year because it's counter to what that event was for. That's all I have.
Councilmember Merkin, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Alves.
Regarding the wine stroll, it was excellent. The chamber's getting it together. It's been a little bit of a stretch, but they finally got it to the point where they got it down. And they have a nice little group of people putting out a good effort, and the product was wonderful. I didn't encounter those people that were obnoxious, thank God, but yeah, it's a lot of work. People have, if you're gonna complain, you gotta help. So that's the thing. If you're out there griping, maybe you ought to get involved and help. Housing, let's talk about housing. Housing in Escalon has been a subject for contention forever, and it's about how much, when, why, and all that. The way I view housing in Escalon is this: through necessity. I would agree, and I think most people in town would agree, there's gonna be some growth, but it'd be through a necessity. And the question is, what type of housing do we want? Well, we have needs, and the need is senior housing. And that is one of the biggest and most important things I think we could do for our community. We lose seniors every year to outside sources because we have no way to facilitate their needs. If we built senior housing, we'd do two things, and one of the first things we do is facilitate the need for senior housing, but more importantly too, we'd be opening up houses for younger families to move in with no impact on the sewer because it's already connected. As far as growth in general, I have no issue as long as we do smart growth, like I said, have infrastructure in place and make sure that we don't damage ourselves by growing and then creating another problem to fix a problem. And what you don't want to become is a city that grows to clean up the last time you grew. And then you got a mess. Then you got Modesto, Stockton, Fresno, on down the line. What makes Escalon, I think, genuine is that we're smart enough to grow just enough not to get ourselves in trouble. I know that there's people that believe we should grow more, and I could argue that all day long. But the bottom line is, if we're gonna grow, we're gonna do it intelligently and at our pace that makes sense for this community. And that's been the consensus as long as I've been on this council. We have been making a big effort, we being the council, the staff, in cleaning up Escalon as a rule. The city of Escalon has become dumpy in areas. We have people that think it's okay to park their car on the lawn, or actually 3 or 4 cars on your lawn. They think it's okay to just totally disregard your neighborhood and do whatever you want with no regard to your neighbors, and we're making a great effort to do that. Now, we don't have an individual who drives around town, but my thinking is we don't need one. I see it. If I can see it, so can everyone else. I would say that people in this community, if you care about your community, take the time to phone in something that is not right. Everybody wants to hire people and do all that. That's great. You have to remember something. Escalon's we have a trade-off here. We have a town that is small. We don't have all the amenities that other cities have, but what we have they don't have is a community. And I'm not gonna sell this town out for whatever amenities they think they need badly, because it's crazy. Once you lose your community people, it's over. You don't get it back. So we will do certain amounts of growth. We will do certain amenity increases, but the most important thing this town has going for it is community. And I want you to remember that, because everyone wants bigger parks, they want this, they want that. Yeah, we all do. But those are trade-offs. Those are things you're gonna have to think about, finding ways to fund, but at the same time, keep the integrity of the town. I've talked to somebody about videos in this town, or not videos, but cameras. We talk about these fireworks situation. If we had cameras up around more in town, we'd be able to see more what goes on. So that's something I've been looking into with a company to see what it would cost us to do that. I've also been looking into companies to do solar farms that we could try to get our cost of doing businesses down so we could afford another cop without going out to higher taxes. So those are things we could be looking at too. And there's other enterprising ideas we should explore before we get on the big tax train and all the other stuff. Now, if that tax train is the way we have to go, we have to do it. Because police and security in this town is the #1 thing we gotta keep. We don't want a town that's unruly and not safe. But I think there's other options we should explore and try to push a little harder before we get crazy in raising the cost of living, because the cost of living for everybody's high enough. So let's try to do something if we can. We have this little trailer enterprise we started in the back here. We're gonna pick up 10 grand, maybe a little bit more this year. That's a start. They all add up. But to remember, don't throw the town under the bus. We have a community here, let's keep it. We'll do what we have to get through it, but let's not go crazy. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Alves. And then I want to agree with what Councilmember Mergen said and Mayor Pro Tem regarding the wine stroll. And that's a good example of a group that's really has come together now, the chamber, and they've really come together and made the community a better place. Why don't you just go and say it now?
I'm going to.
Before I get started.
One other thing, we talked about growth and we talked about people no developing. Well, we have 35 acres in the city of Escalon right now that's undeveloped. And I was talking to the mayor about it and a few other people, and I said it's a shame that we can't get these people motivated to do a little bit of developing now and then. We only have a certain amount of EDUs in this town. I think we have around 200 plus. But the point I'm getting at, and what I talked with the mayor about, and some other people, is maybe we need to add some incentives. And the incentive is this: for those property owners in the city limits who own the land, who don't develop it, don't care about it, we give them a 3-year window. And in 3 years, if they haven't moved that property, we take those EDUs and we move them to the annexation. Because we have to have some growth. And if we're not gonna do it with what we have already, then maybe we need to open up one annexation. Of course, that's gonna be a battle who that person will be, what land it will be, but it's something to consider. So a notice should be given 3 years. Property owners in Escalon, you have 35 acres in the city limits. If you're not gonna do anything with them, no problem. But those EDUs that are supposed to be for your property will now be transferred to the new annexation, because we do need to have some sort of development sometime, somewhere. So that was something I wanted to run by staff, and think about that as an option. I don't know if it's legal, if we can do that or not.
I don't think so.
I don't know if that's legal, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have to find out.
yeah.
Will you find out?
I'll look into it, yeah.
Because, we gotta get some incentive. I mean, these people are not gonna do anything.
I see it being an issue through if you do the annexation through LAFCO. Because
Okay.
LAFCO typically looks at what area you're going to annex and what you have to make sure you can provide services to it all.
Well, you could, if if we made a rule in the town that said if you don't do this and you lose those, we'd have them.
Yeah.
We'll have to look.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's legal or not, but I'd like to know, because we have to do something to have some kind of an opportunity to get something done here. We just can't stagnate forever. We're gonna need some, I don't wanna get crazy, but we're gonna need some growth.
Well, thank you.
All
Well,
right, thank you.
and I think bouncing off of that, I think that, I mean, everybody knows one of the big elephants in the room and one of the big deterrents for infill, some of these infill properties is frankly, I mean, those who have them, they have them for sale. They have them for sale at a very expensive price. They're essentially a write-off to keep them the way they are. So there's no incentive at this point to lower that price or do anything so that the community or somebody in the community can actually do something with some of these properties. And I think that's part of one of the big problems that we have, you know, in undeveloped properties and frankly properties that also are somewhat developed, but they're just quite simply open warehouses. And so I think that's a very worthy notion. And to Councilmember Cronick's point, you know, never feel bad about bringing up the growth issue or anything like that, because that's what we are. This is an arena of ideas out here, regardless of, you know, whether we agree or disagree. They all need to be brought up. That's why I brought up the sales tax notion tonight as more so of a function of looking long-term to see what's going to be happening down the road. There's many ways to handle this. Again, not just through the sales tax notion, but there's many other ways to handle it. However, sooner or later, and I think this is also to Debbie's point, sooner or later we need to make a decision on how we want to go forward. And again, with the growth issue, we'll have more of the pieces of the puzzle when PACE comes back with their study results, and that's a good thing. And I really don't think it's a matter of how much or how fast a town grows. It's more so how much it evolves. And this town has been evolving. Socially, it's been evolving in a fantastic way. I need to give Anna and Peggy a big kudo as well for that new organization that they've started up. But I think the most important thing, again, to echo Mayor Pro Tem Alves, is the sense of community. That's paramount, the soul of this town. Whether we grow a little or don't grow at all. Again, economically, in terms of managing the town, yeah, it's not a bad idea to at least be in a position where you can do a little bit of growth. And that's why I think part of the reason we're doing this sewer study. But the soul of the town is there. I guess we just had a great wine stroll. Ann and Peggy are doing great things with their organization. There will be Highland Games, by the way. I know there's a little bit of talk about that out there, about whether that's going to happen, but that will be happening October 12th and 13th. And actually, another example of a citizen stepping up and suggesting a great idea that we want to have the council entertain is this. A citizen talked to me about a week or two ago regarding a couple of house on Coley, and he was really admiring and said, you know, why doesn't the city have something like a commendation for people who are coming in and actually improving, you know, part of a community? And he actually gave me a long little letter along, you know, with a lot of suggestions. And I'm going to assume there's no problem if I made copies of this and put them in each of the council members' mailboxes. Read it over and ponder on it, you know, and maybe we'll bring it back in the next council meeting. It's just a little thing along the lines of the you know, like the tokens, Mayor Pro Tem, that, you know, they'll thank you tokens, okay?
I'd like to get more of those out.
Something like this, but this one is oriented towards people who are actually improving the appearance of this community through their actual physical actions. So it's just something to think about, look for that in the mailboxes. And that is all we have for this evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's great to see a big crowd out tonight. Great to see a big crowd, and I will declare this meeting adjourned.